afternoon, folks. We're gonna try something new. I know this is primarily a trucking channel, but if you'll read my channel description, you'll see that I'm going to talk about trucking and life in general. So this new thing we're going to do, I'm going to call it church, because I'm going to release it on Sunday at noon. I may do it once a month, twice a month. I may not do it a month. It won't be on any. It won't be every Sunday, and it might be every Sunday. I'll do it as the thoughts come to me. But what this first inaugural church is about is this cancel culture. And that's what a lot of these churches will be about, is societal issues that we're having in this country. Hell, I gotta yell at somebody, and I might as well yell at y'all. What set me off on this one is their latest one, and that's Pepe Le Pew. Now, first of all, let me tell you how we got here. And the way I'll explain that is I'll give you an analogy. In this country, when we find a legitimate problem, like back in the day, it was the environment. The government makes a department. At the time, it was the Environmental Protection Agency, and at the time, it was needed. It was we were dumping chemicals in our rivers. We were spewing poison into the atmosphere out of smokestacks, out of jet planes, out of cars. We were dumping stuff in the ground, in our groundwater, drinking water. It was just poison. We were poisoning people. We were knocking the tops off of mountains and poisoning the groundwater for hundreds of square miles around there. So yes, we needed the EPA. Still need the EPA. But where it goes is, okay, we established the EPA, we established some regulations about how companies need to treat their pollution and stuff. I remember as a kid sitting in the front yard. I lived close to Baltimore Washington International Airport. We were right in the takeoff landing path for it. And I remember watching those old Boeing 707s and stuff taking off, just trailing black smoke behind them. And they were loud. I mean, it shook the windows in the house. I used to ask my dad, doesn't that noise get old? He said, yeah, son. He said, but then, I'm the one that bought a house in an airport landing path, so I figure I gotta live with it. If it got irritating enough, I'd move. See, there's where we go in this world, but we don't want to move. We want to close whatever's irritating us. But back to the subject is, but what happens with the agency, the EPA, I'm using as example, is okay, they make these rules, and they get this stuff under control. They do a lot of cleaning up, do a lot of good things. Well, they've hired a bunch of bureaucrats to do this, to make these rules. And now these bureaucrats have a career in government. Well, they don't want to lose their career in government because they've made the rules now and things are going good. And now people will decide, hey, they've done their job. Why don't we just do the enforcement and get rid of some of these bureaucratic rule makers, No, not in government, can't do that. because they use a budgetary system where they have to spend their whole budget plus some, or their budget gets cut, which is just idiotic to start with. That's a whole nother video. So these bureaucrats naturally have to justify their existence. And how they justify their existence and keep the budget growing is they make rules. And they start doing things like looking at satellite photos and saying, hey, this farmer expanded this pond for his cattle without our permission. And that area is classified as wetlands. So we're going to go in and fine them hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundred thousands of dollars, and destroy them. Or, you know, cars they're running clean and everything. Some of these cars are running so clean now that the emissions sensors can't even pick up the emissions they're putting out. So instead of saying, you know, we've accomplished something, we've made these cars so clean, our machines can't even pick up the pollutants. So, you know, maybe, you know, we've done our job. Let's hang with it for a while. No, they say we need new machines that are more sensitive, so we can write a whole nother set of rules. That's how bureaucracies work. That's how they grow. That's how righteous causes like the EPA or the Department of Energy or the Department of Education, they were started for good reasons, with good intentions, grow into these monstrosities that are making dumb rules that do nothing but hurt. Well, the same thing happens in the social justice movement. We let these fools get their foot in the door with legitimate beefs. Something, you know, you can kind of say, you know, I can kind of see their point of view on that. The first one I remember way back when was the Washington Bullets. For young folks don't know what that is. The Washington Wizards basketball team, NBA team, used to be called the Washington Bullets. Bullets. You can see how they got rid of that. Then there was, of course, the Dukes of Hazzard. We let them get their foot in the door there. And, you know, people can kind of look back and say, I kind of see why they got a beef. Them old rednecks driving that big orange car around, gas guzzling race car with a rebel flag on the roof. Had the guts to paint General Lee on it. There was one other one I was thinking of that we, oh yeah, the Old Miss Rebels. University of Mississippi, they used to be called the Rebels. I don't even know what they're called now. They go by about 14 different names. I guess they're just seeing which one stinks. And they had a mascot. It was an old, like, Southern gentleman wearing a Confederate Army costume. Hell, years ago, he used to wave around a rebel flag. God forbid. And you know, you look at the right thing and kind of say, yeah, legitimate beef. So we let them get in the door with those and cancel those things. And, well, now they're a movement, and a movement that undoubtedly makes money and has power. Power is more addictive than money. And so now they have to justify their existence. They have to start looking for things that offend them. And they run into things like Pepe Le Pew, Uncle Ben's, Aunt Jemima, Mrs. Butterworth, you know, I don't see how the whole Looney Tunes thing isn't, you know, Elmer Fudd toted around a gun. There's Yosemite Sam cartoons where he portrayed a Confederate officer. You know, Wile E. Coyote was using violence to destroy that evil roadrunner. Foghorn Leghorn, he was a womanizer. I can go on and on and on. Mark my words, I wouldn't be surprised if they just go after Looney Tunes in general. Well, if you're going to go after Looney Tunes, why not go after Warner Brothers? They own them. And that's where we go. It's progression. They take things apart. But, you know, we live in a country now where somebody says, you know, Pepe Le Pew or Uncle Ben's or Aunt Jemima promotes, like say that Pepe Le Pew promotes rape culture. How many 10-year-olds do you think watched Pepe Le Pew and first thought popped in their head is, I'm fixing to walk over there and get some of the neighbor's poop, and if she don't want to give it to me, by God, I'm gonna take it. Or how many people you think bought a bottle of, you know, or look was standing there at the syrup aisle and say, you know, at heart, I'm really a racist, and since I'm a racist, well, I'm gonna buy that Aunt Jemima syrup because, you know, it promotes my point of view. Come on, get real, people. That is more than stupid. It's, but yet we can have a video game that same 10-year-old could be playing, where he doesn't want to pay that hooker, so he just kills her. Which one do you think is more harmful, that 10-year-old? The video game or Pepe Le Pew? You know, they're going after Eminem now because, no, I don't even know why they're going after Eminem, but I just saw where they're going after Eminem. And it was just not a year ago that Eminem got on TV and said if any of his fans were Trump voters, he didn't want them. They could go away. He's on their side. That's the funny thing about these movements. They'll eat their own. They show no distinction. And even when you could give them a fair balance thing of something, they still say no. They're just blind to it. Like a few years ago, you can go Google this and look it up and find the details, but the Occupy movement, that seems so long ago, stormed the Wisconsin State House, mainly because they just didn't like who got elected. Took over the place, tore it all to hell, knocked the windows out, vandalized the whole interior, wouldn't get out of the place. And that was all right, because they're just showing their freedom of expression. They're expressing their anger and the candidate they didn't want won. That's a legitimate beef to them. bunch of patriots storm the Capitol, and they're domestic terrorists. Now, granted, somebody died at the Capitol, and I hate that. But those folks got a little too close for comfort for those elite bastards in that Capitol. And by God, next thing you know, they're domestic terrorists, and they're wanting to prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law. You know, we live in a place where we cancel a Star Wars character because she made, dear God, Nazi comparisons on social media, comparing modern things that are going on to things the Nazis did. And she is to be destroyed. Or some country singer slips off one day and gets caught on camera saying something he shouldn't have said. And it's not enough for him to come forward and say, man, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was insensitive and I shouldn't have said it. No, that ain't good enough. He is to be destroyed. He is to be completely silenced and his life ruined. But yet, we could have a bunch of nudists have a parade in San Francisco in the middle of the day, buck-ass naked, painted up like tie-dye shirts, with stick-on dildos stuck to their forehead, in front of kids, God, and everybody. And that's okay. They're just angry, and it's their freedom of expression. And see, this is where we got screwed up. Sorry, y'all gonna see some jumps in this thing because I've been hacking a little bit. I ain't gonna make y'all listen to it. Where we got screwed up was somewhere along the line. And I'm not really sure when this happened. We got freedom of speech and freedom of expression mixed up with freedom from consequence. And I don't know, I've read the Constitution a couple times in my lifetime. And I don't recall any amendment in there where I saw that we have a freedom from consequence. I could walk into the south side of Chicago, to the biggest minority neighborhood they've got, and I can hop out of my car and I can wave my rebel flag and say the N-word at the top of my lungs. You can probably figure out what'll happen. But I was free to say it. But I'm not free from the consequence that comes from it. Some woke fella decides he wants to get out in the street in front of my house and burn an American flag. He's free to do it. He ain't free from the ass whooping he's gonna tote if I can get my mitts on him. And see, that's where they got confused. These little snowflakes think that they can come out of their mama's basement every once in a while and burn down a Walgreens because they're angry. And they don't think they should have any consequence from it. They think that they woke. They fighting for the cause. So they shouldn't have consequences. Well, and a lot of this stuff comes from our elites, our betters. I saw where Meghan Markle, the princess over there in England, come from America, she was a commoner. She's a minority. Married a prince, become a princess, richer than God. But somehow or another, she's oppressed. These elites make idiotic statements like this, and they push these movements because they don't have to live with them. They sit back in their gated communities. They go to their private clubs. They don't have to interact. You know, they're not the poor soul in Ferguson, Missouri that has to use that CVS. They have to. They need that to get their medicine and such. It affects them. You know, something burns down a CVS in Los Angeles. You think that's going to affect one of these social justice snowflakes? No. They'll sit there, surf out somewhere else to get it. And there's a purpose behind this. If you got a wall in front of you, you start pulling bricks out of that wall. Eventually, you pull enough bricks out that wall will crumble. Well, that's what they're doing to the American culture now, because these people do not like this country. Everyone would say, I can't believe these rednecks think that America's the greatest country on earth. I got news flash to you. I've been to 37 different countries. And I can pretty well give you an opinion. I don't want to immigrate to none of them. But I see a whole lot of people in those countries wanting to immigrate here. That should tell you something. There sure is a lot of people wanting to come here for this country sucking so bad. So, like, back to the brick wall analogy. So what they're doing is they're pulling bricks out of our culture. Pepe Le Pew, Dukes of Hazzard, masculinity, and they've been doing it since the 60s. They're pulling bricks out, one brick at a time, out of our culture. And they're right. They get enough bricks pulled out, that culture will collapse. And then they'll be the ones standing there to step in and replace it with what they want, or what they think they want. I'd like for them to go to some of these countries that they praise so much and pull some of the shit they do and see what happens. They wouldn't like the result, I promise you. I was on an aircraft carrier. We did a Mediterranean cruise, and we tied up in the port of Valencia, Spain for 2 weeks. This was a showboat cruise. We were going around port to port, basically showing the flag. This was the late 80s. This is when America had a for real military, and Cold War was still going on, so we had to project what they called project power. Well, we pulled into Valencia, Spain. We were there for 2 weeks, tied up actually at a dock. And usually aircraft carriers don't tie up at a dock. They usually sit out, and you go in and out on Liberty boats, because I mean, just not every port can support just the raw size of an aircraft carrier. And it was all great. They loved us. Boy, we got there, they was waving American flags and just loved us. Sucking up all that sailor money. You bring a carrier in their battle group into a city like that, pretty good chunk of change gets spent while they're there. The night before we leave, out comes Greenpeace. Protesting, saying they know we have nuclear weapons on board. We weren't a nuclear carrier, so they could complain about that. I was on the Forrestal. It was still an oil burner, which I hated those too, but not near as much as they hated nukes. And they just knew we had nuclear weapons on board, so they had this protest on the dock. They were throwing green and orange paint balloons, like a water balloon but filled with paint, at our ship. And we took it, just a little defacing property, What's that in a day's work? Of course, people were on the aircraft carrier looking down at these fools because we were 90 feet up in the air. Couldn't none of those fools reach us with a paint balloon. The guy beside me got hit in the eye with a rock, shot from a slingshot. Well, as that started happening, the tune changed. Now, in a lot of countries in the world, we have the police. That's it. You got your police. You got city police. You got state troopers. You got county mounties. But they're the police. They keep civil order. A lot of other countries in the world, like most countries in Europe, especially Spain, because people don't know it, Spain's a communist country, they have their regular civilian police, the ones that, write parking tickets, break up bar fights, stuff like that. Then they have what they call their military police. That's their Gestapo. That's they come in when there's big things to be broke up, like riots, demonstrations, things like that. We're sitting there watching this whole mess unfold, and they uprolls these big troop carriers, like we used to call them 6x6s, the deuce and a halves, deuce and a quarters, whatever you call them. Their version of them. And outpile these military police. They didn't come out and say, please disperse, or stop, go away, this demonstration is over. No, they jumped out of those trucks with billy clubs and pronounced to go beating these hippies all to hell and back. And they grabbed one, they'd beat him into submission and throw him in the back of the truck. And they just went about that until enough of them got the message that the rest of them ran. You know what would happen if we did that in this country? But yet we suck. Be careful, you little snowflake. One day, you're going to pull the wrong brick. You're going to go one step too far. And that damn wall is going to fall on you. Because there will come a day when the average American, average working man, no particular color, race, or creed, will have had enough. And you will rue that day. When we decide we're going to take our culture back. That concludes this church session. Like I said, this is a trucking channel, but every once in a while I have something I just like to speak on. I don't want to raise hell about it. I need to raise hell to somebody, so I'll raise hell to y'all. If you want to see more of this stuff, like, subscribe, comment. You can call me a racist, sexist, homophobe. You can call me a motherfucker. You can call me a redneck, a hillbilly. I don't give a shit. Call me whatever you want. Because contrary to popular belief, words don't hurt. Y'all have you a fine American day. And until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.